Welcome to the safety presentation for HVC Dordrecht. This information is especially intended for the employees of external companies who carry out working activities on the site or within the installation of HVC, to be referred to as third parties during this presentation. After the presentation, you will be given a form with questions in order to check whether you have understood the contents of the presentation. At the end of 2006, the obligation to cooperate was added to the Foreign Nationals Employment Act. This means that employers are obliged to cooperate in establishing the identity of their employees. This also applies to employees of third parties. Before gaining entry to the HVC site, everyone must be able to produce a valid identity document. To work at HVC, you must have a VCA Contractor Safety Certificate. Once you have viewed the safety presentation, you must enter the number of your VCA certificate on the registration form. A registration of the people present is obligatory with regard to everyone working on the site, both in the office and in the installations. This is for safety reasons, amongst other things. You must have a valid work permit for almost all the working activities. The work permit includes, amongst other things, the name of your HVC contact. He/she will discuss the work with you beforehand. The work permit will be signed by your contact, the responsible head of processing, HPV, and of course by you or your colleague. The watchman has made sure that the installation which you will be working on has been made safe. Also check this for yourself. The work permit will indicate whether you need additional personal protective equipment, in addition to the standard equipment. The work permit is valid for a maximum of 1 working week, from Monday to Friday, but must be extended on a daily basis. Once the working activities have been completed, the work permit must be signed by your contact. Each work permit is linked to a contact of HVC, so each firm has its own contact, who can be approached with questions and such like. Make sure that you have a note of your contact's telephone number. Before you start work, you must collect the work permit from the control room. Take note, a different arrangement applies for an overhaul stop, which you will be informed about beforehand. When the work is finished, you must hand in the work permit again. If necessary, the work permit can be extended and collected again the next morning. 1 copy of the work permit remains in the control room, and there is a copy for the third party. The work permit is never valid for longer than a week, running from Monday to Friday. The emergency exits are indicated on emergency exit maps hanging in the office and in the factory throughout the building. Take note, in the case of fire or evacuation, the lifts may not be used. For each team of people at work, there must always be at least 1 person present who has a command of Dutch, German, or English. This person must be able to communicate with the rest of his or her team. All accidents, near accidents, dangerous situations and environmental incidents must be reported immediately. You can use the internal alarm number to do this. If you use a landline in the factory or office, dial 823. Otherwise, 078 6216 823. If someone is having a heart attack, first call 0112, then 823. The team on duty will inform the in-company emergency service team within HVC. Every lift has a telephone which you can use to dial 823. This information can also be found in the brochure HVC Safety at Work. Take note of the contents. Safety comes first and foremost. For HVC, these are not just empty words. It is forbidden to carry out working activities in an unsafe way. If necessary, call other people to account with regard to this. One of the risks on our site concerns the combination of small areas and movement of traffic. Keep this in mind when working or moving about on the site. Our advice is, wear reflective clothing. Make sure that cables and hoses are hung up as safely as much as possible, where they cannot be damaged, and so that there is not a risk of someone tripping over them. Make sure that objects or tools are placed in such a way that they do not form a safety risk. Do not place any materials directly onto the grid floors, because they could fall through the spaces. so place any small objects in buckets, for example. Various chemicals are used in the production process. There is product information available at the storage area and unloading areas. There are many pipes running through the installations, some of which contain chemicals. Take this fact into account when carrying out your work. If you use chemicals during your work, which you are bringing with you yourself, you must report this beforehand. In the case of any incident, we must have information about these substances. Installation parts, pipes and hoses can become very hot, so take this into account. Safety glasses must be worn in the installations. For working activities near where welding work is going on, wear UV glasses. Protect your airways at all times. In a dusty environment, you must wear a mask. For work to be carried out high up, the workplace must be well protected with rails. If they are not available or present, then a personal safety harness must be worn. Ladders may only be used in a safe manner, and if they are in a good state of repair. They may only be used for working activities of a brief duration. For working activities in a very dirty environment, for example in the bunker, the following personal protection is required. A full face mask respirator with a P3 filter. Disposable overalls. Gloves. The requirements also include adjusted working times and personal hygiene. A personal protective equipment zoning applies on the HVC site, which is indicated by signs in various places on the site. In the installations, people must wear a helmet, work clothing, safety shoes and safety glasses. Additional personal protective equipment can be specified on the work permit. If necessary, for example in the case of hoists or an open hatch, the area must be sectioned off by means of marking tape or fences. These marked off areas must be respected. Once the tape or fences are no longer necessary, they must be removed as quickly as possible, and only by the person who put them there, at his or her orders. As a result of the anti-smoking legislation, a smoking ban applies throughout the whole building. Keep these areas clean and tidy, both from a hygienic point of view and out of consideration for colleagues. In the case of a calamity, an alarm signal will sound, followed by verbal instructions. This signal will always be consciously activated, so it cannot be a case of a faulty fire alarm or similar situation. In the case of an evacuation, leave the workplace immediately and warn the people nearby you. You must go outside immediately and report to the meeting point indicated. Any deviations from this procedure will be announced via the intercom system. When an evacuation takes place, work permits are withdrawn. As soon as the all clear has been given, the work permits must be revalidated. Each lift shows the maximum weight allowed. If this weight is exceeded, this will irrevocably lead to malfunctions. Loads above this weight should be hoisted by crane or using a builder's hoist. If someone repeatedly violates the applicable regulations of HVC afvalcentrale, that person will receive a yellow warning card. If the person is issued with a second yellow card, the manager in question will be asked to replace that person. A red dismissal card can also be issued without first receiving a yellow card. For example, in the case of using or being under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and in the case of theft or aggressive behavior. In the first instance, you can approach the HVC contact with all your questions. In addition, you can speak to one of the heads of processing, who is always present in the control room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We hope that you will enjoy working at HVC and return to your homes safe and sound. You will now be given a form containing a number of questions about this presentation. Please complete this form fully. Thank you for your attention. HVC, Department of Quality, Working Conditions and Environment.